Good? Okay. Still, you can hear me? All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and distinguished panelists. Um, Welcome to this panel discussion today on COP28. First of all, I would like to thank the Atlantic Council for hosting us in this beautiful room with everyone here. And I thank everyone for attending today. Um, the panel discussion today is going to be about sustainable construction and urban development, innovations for carbon reduction and resilience, addressing the critical aspects of sustainable construction and climate goals. My name is Mohammed Amr, and I'm the Regional Director of Operations with the International Code Council for the MENA region, and I'm based out of Dubai here. I'm honored that this session is taking place today around COP28, where I guess it's clear for everyone that the discussions and the interactions are taking new heights. We're very happy to be this year as well at COP28 with everyone, and it goes without saying around or in line with the discussion of the panel today that the eco-friendly building materials promote sustainability across the social, economic, and environmental aspects. Our goal is not just to build structures, but to construct a legacy that stands the test of time and environment for many more years to come. Established in early 2022, the MENA Building Science Advisory Council, where our esteemed and distinguished panels are member of, stands as a voluntary group fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing among the industry experts, committed to advancing construction innovation and building safety practices. The MENA Building Science Advisory Council represents a vital testament to our commitment to cement relationship with our business partners across the whole sector of building safety, consultants, contractors, manufacturers, authorities having jurisdictions. And through the advisory group, we have a collective mission into promoting efficient and effective communication among the industry players in the building industry to enhance the cooperation and to present to the public relevant information about building safety opportunities, trends, and challenges, including obviously aspects related to training, code development, standardization processes, testing, inspection, among others, all around the realm of building safety. And allow me please to say that today's discussion adds a significant factor as we gather around the time where Dubai Municipality has recently joined the Advisory Council. We're thrilled to have this timely conversation, providing an opportunity to harness all thoughts and ideas from all the industry experts, including our newly joined member. And again, this collective effort seamlessly with the ICC's Building Science Advisory Council mission facilitates the knowledge exchange among all parties globally and obviously specifically in the MENA region. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and we hope you have a productive session. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Judy Zakreski, Senior Vice President of Global Operations and Solutions with the International Code Council, to start the session. So, Judy, over to you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amr. And welcome to our panel. I'm going to provide a brief introduction of all of our panelists, and then we'll get right into the discussion. Joining me today, thank you all. It's wonderful to see you. First is Engineer Mira Almiri, who is the Section Manager of Research and Building Systems with Dubai Municipality. Engineer Mira Almiri currently serves as the Section Manager of Research and Building Systems and at the Building Permits Department within Dubai Municipality. She's a key member and rapporteur of the task force that oversees the regulation of 3D printing technology in construction within Dubai. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in architecture from the United Arab Emirates University, and she subsequently worked as the head of design and planning at the UAEU's Facility Management Department. Mira is a staunch advocate for sustainability, green building, accessibility, and innovation, and she's actively participated in numerous local and international conferences and events as an organizer and speaker. In her role at Dubai Municipality, she's strategically developed the Research and Building Systems section, which focuses on future technology and capabilities, including advancements like 3D printing. Mira also directs research and development programs to meet organizational needs and foster innovation. Thank you for being with us. Our next panelist is Khaled El Kaka, who's the managing director of Unidom Deutschland GmbH. Khaled is a business leader with a wealth of experience in the Middle East construction sector. He currently is serving as the managing director of Unidom, which is a distinguished German company that's at the forefront of sustainable construction technologies. He's a passionate advocate for developing and implementing innovative and eco-friendly building solutions, both locally in Dubai as well as on a global scale. The next panelist is Kamal Farah, who's the director of Desert Board. Kamal is actually also the CEO of Abanos Interior Fit Out and Joinery, which he's a role that he's served in since 2012. And in addition, he's also the CEO of Desert Board. And he sits on the board of directors for ECC Group. Leading Abanos to maintain a prominent position in the UAE and GCC markets, Kamal oversaw its recent expansion, establishing a 21,000 square meter facility in Dubai Investment Park with modern machinery. Kamal has a master's in civil engineering from the University of Bristol in the UK, and his latest accomplishment includes founding Desert Board, which innovated the UAE's first 100% sustainable engineered wooden board, the Palm Strand Board, or PSB. These are both really exciting technologies, and I've worked with both of these people for quite some time, and I'm excited to have them here to share their technologies with you. And our final panelist, who also is involved in a lot of innovation, I'm excited to have him here as well, is Dr. Antonio Nani, who is the president of the American Concrete Institute. He's also a professor of engineering at the University of Miami, and he does a lot of research in innovative concrete development. His interests include construction materials and their structural performance and field application, with a focus on sustainability and resilience within buildings and civil infrastructure. Over the past 35 plus years, Dr. Nani has studied concrete and advanced composite-based systems as a principal investigator on many research projects. Some of the innovative field projects he's contributed to have received national awards in the United States. And his research has impacted the work of standard writing technical committees in the United States and abroad. Tony was elected president of the American Concrete Institute and serves as its 100th president for the term of 2023 to 24. He's a fellow of 4 technical societies and a registered professional engineer in Italy and 4 US states. Please join me in welcoming this esteemed panel. Now, I'm going to ask each panelist in turn to give me a little bit of, I've given you some information about them, but I'd like them to have a chance to brag and to speak a little bit about what they want you to take away, their message, what their organization is doing, what unique contributions your organization is doing for sustainable construction landscape and the alignment of the buildings and construction sector with climate goals.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you for arranging such a very interesting topic. I am Mira Al-Amri, the head of research and building systems in Dubai Municipality. My role is to study new building systems and new building technologies and how to implement them in Dubai buildings and new technologies and systems and etc. So we take research very seriously, and we collaborate with different entities like universities, developers, to come up with the best ideas and technologies that we can to develop Dubai buildings.
Khaled?
Thank you so much. At Unidom, we wanted always to be the leaders in applying technology to construction, using 100% recycled material to reduce consumption of concrete, reinforcement steel, and that's the easiest way to reduce your carbon footprint. Recycled plastic specifically is the most difficult part to recycle for municipalities, for governments. So putting it back in the construction, making sure that you've got a lifetime cycle analysis that you can still recycle it when you reconstruct the building 50 or 100 years later. This is where the sustainability should be going to. We are not a business or on commercial basis only. We are a collaboration between academia and business. So we've got in our development team professors from top German universities like Technical University of Darmstadt, Aachen University, Bochum University, and we are backed by the federal government in Germany. They finance what we do. They grant us money to go on our research to find solutions for cast in situ and precast or modular construction systems. So this is, I hope I could tell the story in a nutshell. Yeah.
Thank you. And just to paint the picture a bit for our audience, the product that Unidome manufactures is a voided slab,
Yes.
and it's inserted prior, or it's laid prior to the pouring of concrete in
Yes,
buildings. So
yes.
it uses less. They're made out of recycled materials, recycled plastic.
Yes.
This is my layman's description for everyone in the audience who's not an engineer.
Technically, we are replacing concrete with recycled plastic. Yeah. That's
And so the concrete's poured over the plastic slabs.
And
You're
it's
using
embedded
embedded,
within- yeah.
using less concrete,
Yes. Less steel.
less steel, and using recycled plastic to build buildings. So they're lighter.
Yes.
The floors are smaller or
Thinner.
Thinner.
Of course, yeah. And the whole weight of the building is lighter also. That means less foundation requirements. We can get rid of the piling in some cases. It's more flexible in terms of seismic if you want. So yeah, I need another couple of hours to
Right.
say the benefits of what we do. But yes, in brief, replacing concrete where it's not needed. And that reduces your carbon footprint right away. So we reduce about 20% of your carbon footprint in each project we are involved in, at least, in addition to about 20% of energy needed. And of course, it's much faster to construct using our system. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a great product. I'll put it's unidome.com.
DE.
Unidome.de. So anybody that wants to check it out, I recommend it. It's cool, a cool technology. Just as Kamal's company's technology, Desert Board, really exciting. I think maybe I'll ask you to start by explaining, sort of in layman's terms, what Desert Board is and what your company has innovated in the construction sector.
Okay, so if you look around you, you will see we are in a room that's made from OSB. OSB is an Orit strand board. And what we have come up with is we are actually upcycling palm waste here in the UAE to make the equivalent. We call it PSB, palm strand board. Now, we are taking a nature-based waste and we're turning that into a value-added product. In doing that, we are we're adding value. But in the past, they used to build houses from these palm fronds, what they call barassi houses. But with modern construction, that's gone out the window. So now they're burning these leaves or they're burying it. If you burn it, you release CO2 into the atmosphere. If you bury it, there's two problems. Number one, it takes up a lot of land space, because it takes decades to decompose. And as it does decompose, it releases CH4, methane, into the atmosphere, which is also very harmful for, it's a greenhouse gas. Now, we're taking that, and we found a way, through years of research and development ourselves, to make a board which looks very similar to the boards you see in this room. And they are actually here in the COP. They've used them in the COP in certain areas. They're covering the columns here in this tent with our boards. There is certain areas where they've used them, public areas. And the board that we're manufacturing has a very high strength. So now we're moving towards mass timber structures by using our board. So the really exciting thing is that we're manufacturing a board in the desert, from the desert. And it's actually one of the most sustainable boards in the world because we're not cutting down any trees. On the contrary, we're allowing the tree to continue to grow because you have to cut down these fronds in order for the tree to grow. Finally, our board is also formaldehyde free. So it's made with a glue that is formaldehyde free. So it meets all the specifications for well building certification. Yeah, I mean formaldehyde is a carcinogenic, and there are limits set in standards on how much formaldehyde you can have in your board for internal use. In the US, there is a CARB rating, and we meet the highest standards as per Californian Air Body. So yeah, that's a bit about Desert Board. We're also making, we're using it to make furniture, to make doors, fire-rated doors. We're using it to make structural I-beams, to make SIPs, structure insulated panels, for building houses. We built some houses from them. So yeah, it's very versatile where you can use our boards.
Thank you so much. And Tony, tell us what ACI is doing in the innovation of concrete.
Certainly. Well, first of all, let me start with a comment. I'm delighted to be in a building where there is not much concrete. So it's very clear that we are not just advocating the use of this material. What ACI has been doing for over 100 years is really not advocating the use of a material, but advocating the advancement of knowledge in the use of concrete. So we're not a trade association, we're a technical society, we're a professional society. The two items that I think set us apart from other organizations worldwide is, first of all, the development of codes and standards. You all know that our industry relies on three things: is the codes and standards, relies on the education and the training of the people that are supposed to implement these codes, and I think even perhaps more importantly, on the certification and the quality control of the products that we deploy. I think without naming countries, very recently a very damaging earthquake has hit a region of the world where there is an excellent building code, but if you don't inspect and if you don't audit what is being built, building collapse. The other thing that I wanted to mention is sustainability and resilience are at the core of what ACI does today. The other day, actually, we had the opportunity to unveil the new low-carbon concrete code. It's not net zero yet, but we are getting there. And I think it's really fundamental for us to understand that the amount of research and development that is going on in our industry today is unprecedented. The number of companies, startups that are developing new products is simply amazing. Actually, without naming anybody, there is a gentleman here in the room who is the CEO of a very prominent precast concrete industry, and they have a role in sustainability that is fundamental. So we're looking at this issue from all aspects, and I'm delighted to be here with you and others who are not necessarily looking at concrete as a solution. Just a number, just to get a sense of magnitude. If I look at the United States alone, we every year generate 400 million cubic meters of concrete. It's something that we cannot totally substitute. Clearly, we can do better with better cement, but I think the concrete will remain the key material for construction and certainly for resilience.
Thank you. And that actually leads me very nicely into my next question for Engineer Mira, which has to do with what local jurisdictions can do. to support the use of innovative technologies, innovative concrete, the codes and standards, and the innovative technologies that are represented by the other two companies on our panel. So, Engineer Mira, what are some ways that local jurisdictions can support the use of these innovative technologies and new construction methods like 3D printing of concrete and offsite construction to enhance sustainability?
Okay, it's a very good question. Actually, local authorities play a really important role in supporting the use of innovative construction technologies like 3D printing or off-site construction. So first, if I'm gonna take them 2 points, the first point, it will be like updating the local codes. The local codes should adopt a performance-based approach and include provisions for new technologies. This allows for greater flexibility and innovation in design and construction while ensuring a clear legal framework that guide both developers and authorities in implementing these methods safely and efficiently. Another thing could be done is like streamlining permitting process to accelerate the permitting process. You could, for example, give a certain team the task of studying these new technologies and permitting them. Collaboration and partnership is a really important role, like establishing partnership between the local building authorities and universities, research institutions, and international organizations and private company to collaborate on research and development of the innovative technologies itself. Public awareness is another important thing that local authorities could do, like invest in education and training programs for local industry and building officials to understand these new technologies, to implement them in their buildings later on. Create a regularity sandbox program for pilot projects is another important thing that can be done by the local authorities. Also, encourage the data sharing and transparency is a key within the industry by creating a platform for sharing projects, for example. Also, providing incentives for these for developers and construction companies who adopt innovation. To summarize this, by taking these steps, local authorities can create an environment that is conducive to the adoption of innovative construction technologies, contributing to more sustainable and resilient built environment.
Thank you so much. And I think Dubai Municipality is really doing a lot of that. You're leading by example, you're walking the walk, and that's great. And it needs to happen because there's so many innovative buildings being constructed in Dubai and so much growth here. So thank you for providing an excellent example in that area. I want to turn the discussion a bit to resilience and adaptation. I just actually was in a Blue Zone session where we were talking about resilience and adaptation in the built environment. And I'm active in the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction Adaptation Working Group. So we do a lot of work in this area. And I'm thrilled that resilience and adaptation are taking sort of an equal place on the discussion about climate change as sustainability. We need to mitigate, but we also need to adapt and make sure that we have resilient structures. So I want to ask Khaled and Kamal specifically, do you see mitigation and sustainability and adaptation and resilience as two separate issues? Or do you think that when we create sustainable buildings, we can also enhance their resilience? And I think you both touched on that a little bit, but I want to let you dive in a bit more.
Okay. I think they go in line together. You cannot separate this at all. The problem with building on sustainable basis, early days of talking about sustainable construction, people thought going sustainable means you lose some of the qualities of your build, or you lose some of the characteristics of the conventional construction. And so that's the point. People need to be educated that it's not the case at all. adapting innovation or creativity in construction means you get a better construction. We can, from early days of the construction process, if you involve every stakeholder really in the early days and highlight what are the objectives, what are the targets we want to achieve, what are the risks we want to mitigate. It's not a secret now that the world is changing, the climate is changing, as the professor said about the earthquake. This is a big thing happening. We cannot just keep a blind eye on the change the world is facing. And the only way to do this is by going more creative, by going more sustainable, and following, partnering with regulators, with really all involved stakeholders. This needs to start now because the impact is right immediate. We can have better buildings, more robust buildings that are really resilient, and they can live with the risks we are looking at. And most important, at the end of the life cycle of these buildings, we can still recycle, rebuild, and use always less material, because sustainability in construction, the way I see it, and I'm not sure if the professor will agree on that, is the first step today to have an impact today is use less material. This is the easiest, the low-hanging fruit to achieve lower carbon footprint. Yeah.
I second that, but I also, they're all intertwined, they're all interlinked. Yeah. If you think they're separated, that's a silo thinking. And I come from the construction industry, having worked as a contractor. You have to collaborate, you have to work together. And you also have to plan a lot, you have to plan forward, and in order to see what to do at the end of the life of the building. And I think this drive for sustainability and to decarbonize the built environment, I think it's not something that is going to reduce the quality of the buildings that we're building. I think, on the contrary, it's actually going to make our buildings better, because it's forcing us to think differently.
Yep, that's a great point. Let me ask a slightly different question to Tony about concrete specifically, and the embodied carbon and the greenhouse gas emissions in building that's associated with the cement used in concrete. So especially in this region, it's one of the most dominant construction materials, and I think we've established that it will still be around, but it's also known as being particularly carbon intensive. So what are some of the innovations in concrete construction that are enabling its use as a green construction material? And do you think that with these innovations, is concrete going to continue to dominate, or is there a chance that we're going to see something like engineered wood become more dominant, or both?
Okay, it's an excellent question, but before I answer it directly, let me go back to some of the things that were mentioned. For example, the role of local governments or federal governments, I think, is not only the issue of implementing better codes, but is the issue of enforcing better codes. And I think, to me, I speak as Tony Nanny, not as the president of ACI, the mandates are fundamental. If we do not mandate, new materials, if we don't mandate materials that are less impactful, we are not going to make a solution. The other thing that I think is very relevant, I mentioned to you the excitement of our industry in terms of new technologies. Unless we can really measure what is the low global warming potential, and we have a benchmark, and we can really eliminate what certain groups are really selling us as greenwashing, we're not going to make progress. So the measurements and the benchmarking is critical. The third item, before I get to the question, sorry for taking so long, you mentioned something that, in my mind, we tend not to consider, and this is the existing build stock. The repair rehabilitation of existing structure is fundamental. We cannot just throw everything away. So I think technologies that will allow us to make sustainable and resilient existing buildings in particular are fundamental. Now back to the real question that you asked me for concrete. I think for us, and now I speak as ACI's president, it's almost irrelevant which material will dominate. This is not an issue for us. We look at a toolbox, and every tool in the toolbox has a place. What I think we're doing in terms of looking at making concrete greener, and in particular looking at the cement, is we have realized that probably 70%, let me repeat this number, 70% of the CO2 emission could be saved by implementing existing technologies. We don't have to do things that are not in the realm of technology today. And so I think we need to be smart and utilize what we know. For example, if I look at the roadmap of GCCA, the Global Cement and Concrete Association, by just doing better design of concrete mixture and optimization of building structures, we save 33%. The other 30%, if we go from 70 to 100, comes from the new technology that look at storage, and really this is the new materials. But there is also a catch here, and I think as technologists we need to be aware of, is the scaling up. Okay, so one thing is to say I have a great technology and I can use it, but can you really solve problems of the world? So it's extremely complex, and I think it was mentioned that only working together as a building industry we can make the difference. And concrete will be certainly a player, irrespective of the dominance. This is not an issue as far as we're concerned.
Thank you, Tony, and that gives me the opportunity to mention a couple of things that ICC's been involved with. One of them is the development of a standard for the measurement and verification of whole life carbon. Really a critical need globally so that we don't have the greenwashing situation, and so that we have sort of a global measure to verify that. It's a standard that's under development between ICC and ASHRAE, and we'll have a public comment period starting in January. The other thing that we're working on.
I just wanted to add a point there. I think it's very important that you do have that standard and you do have that method of measuring, because there is no way that we can decarbonize our built environment if we don't know how much carbon we're emitting, and if we can't measure the carbon that we're emitting. So, if I may add, when you can actually mention the amount of carbon there is embodied in the material that you're putting into the building, that way you can start talking about decarbonizing the built environment. For instance, with our board, we're able now to tell you that through an LCA, for every cubic meter of board used, you're capturing 410 kilograms of carbon. And I think that all of this coming up is really going to help us in decarbonizing the built environment.
Great, yeah, and that takes me to my third point, but I'm going to have a second point, which is to Tony's point about needing to really build the capacity for enforcement. Enforcement is critical. You need the codes and standards, but you need enforcement. And so you may have heard about the buildings breakthrough and the cement breakthrough that happened at COP on the 6th this week. ICC has a supporting initiative to the buildings breakthrough that's for capacity building. So really focusing on the whole building safety ecosystem and looking at what needs to happen beyond the adoption of codes, making sure that you have the regulation enforcement in place, you have building inspectors, you have a way to measure practitioner competency, you have appropriate standards that all come together with the whole ecosystem to make sure that your codes and standards result in safer buildings. So that's another thing that we're working on and really excited about. The third point is something that I keep hearing over and over this week, which I think is really critical, and that's the collaboration between industry and regulators. They need each other, right? The regulators need industry to implement the regulations and to be able to say to regulators, yes, we want stronger regulation, we want higher standards because we're making excellent products and we don't want to race to the bottom. And the industry in turn needs the regulation so that they're comfortable to make the investment that's needed to improve the products. So it's a push-pull, and it requires both sides to collaborate. And I think we see that in our little small ecosphere of the Building Science Advisory Council, but I think we see that more and more on the global stage, and countries and industry are realizing that. And that's why we're seeing so much industry participate in the COPs. And I think it's a wonderful thing, despite the criticism and skepticism that it gets in the mainstream media. Tackling climate change really takes everyone. So I'm thrilled that everyone is here. Now, that leads into my question to Engineer Mira about examples in Dubai of successful collaboration that you've seen and facilitated between researchers, manufacturers, construction companies, and AHJs in driving the development and adoption of innovative products and processes. Can you share some examples with us?
Yes, sure. Actually, there's numerous notable examples of successful collaboration in the field. Dubai Municipality, as the local authority in Dubai, has been instrumental in fostering the collaboration that drive the development and adoption of innovation in construction. This collaboration drives involving partnership with universities, international organization, and private sector. For example, for the university partnership, Dubai Municipality had engaged with MOUs with different universities, such as American University in Dubai, Sharjah University in Dubai, UAE University, Harriet Watt, and etc. This partnership focus on the research and development in the 3D concrete printing and modern method of construction, like off-site modular construction. The universities provide the academic and technical expertise needed to explore new construction methodologies and validate their practicality and the sustainability. Also, international organization is another example of the collaboration. We have our collaboration with ICC. We have our collaboration with the ACI, also with ASCM. These partnerships help Dubai Municipality to develop codes and guidelines that align with the global best practices. Also, the private sector engagement is another important example. Dubai Municipality works closely with the master developers, contractors, and specialists and manufacturers in the private sector. This collaboration involves technical validation, pilot projects, and the practical application of new construction methods. By engaging the industry players, DM ensures that innovation construction methods are feasible and safe. So in summary, Dubai Municipality role extends beyond regulation and oversight. It's actively engaging in the collaborative efforts that integrate research and practical application and international standard to foster the adoption of innovation in construction.
Can I sorry, this is, I'd like to actually reinforce what Engineer Mira said. They did, there is an example, the largest 3D printed building in the world at the time was actually done with our construction company, ECC. And it was done in collaboration with Dubai Municipality and ECC. So they are actually doing it. It is true what she's saying.
Thank you.
Real life example. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Engineer Mira. Last question for the panel. I'm actually going to ask our three private sector entities. We'll go Tony, then Kamal, then Khaled. What is the top thing that the construction industry, whether it's a standards developer or an innovative manufacturer, what's the top thing you can do to advance global efforts to address climate change through sustainable and resilient construction?
Oh boy, this is a difficult question, but as always, I want to tie back to what you had asked before. I think the first item that I wanted to mention is if we really want to be successful in sustainability and resilience, we need to change the public culture. We can do whatever we want at this side of the table, but if the other side of the table doesn't buy it, we are not going to get there. For example, you buy a new car, you will have a manual what to do, when to change the oil. When you buy a new home, do you have a manual on what to do? Do you know what the energy consumption is? So I think culture is the issue, and that is not easy, and maybe we're not the best one to address it. The other thing that I wanted to mention, we have never addressed the issue of economics here today. And sustainability really has 3 pillars, and one of them is economics. Unless we are cheaper or equal in terms of first cost basis, anything that we do in terms of LCA or other is not going to fly. So I think these are items that we have to keep in mind. Then to your real question, I think what is most important for ACI at the moment is really to develop new standards, new documents that really combine the 2 things that are fundamental to our construction industry. And on one side is the safety and serviceability with sustainability and resilience. So this, let's say, synergism between the 2 sides of the same coin is fundamental. We need to implement codes that address sustainability from an engineering perspective. And I'm not sure that the engineering community is ready for that. So I think this is the challenge, and it can only be done with education. So lots of room for us to grow, but with great excitement.
Before Kamal jumps in, Tony, do you think that it's more important to reduce the cost of sustainable construction materials, or to change the mindset, to change the narrative from a first cost of ownership to a total cost of ownership? Because if you're buying a sustainable home, you're going to be paying less in energy bills, and you're going to have less of a carbon footprint. You know, there's all kinds of added benefits. But I think that part of the problem is that we're so focused on first cost of purchase instead of total cost of ownership.
Okay, I'm going to answer this question not as ACI president, because I don't have the liberty to speak on this issue from an ACI. As an individual, I think I would be prepared to pay more if I totally understood the benefits for society. So I think the issue of cost comes when you deal, for example, with an agency. Let me use an example, the Florida Department of Transportation. If FDOT needs 2 bridges, I cannot say, I'll build you a sustainable one for the cost of 2. I need 2 bridges. So I think we need to keep in mind the cost issue, the economics, but I think as individual, that's the change in culture. We need to accept the fact that sustainability means different things. And by the way, it's not only cost, it's less waste. So I think, again, complexity, but this is the beauty of it. If it were easy, we would not be where we are today.
Sorry to jump in with that. I just had to raise that. Kamal?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yes.
What's going to drive sustainability in the construction industry?
What's the top thing that your industry, that the construction manufacturing industry can do to drive sustainability and resilient construction?
We've had a lot of, we're a brand new product, okay? PSP is a brand new product. It's the equivalent of OSB. Yes, it's very high in strength. It has moisture resistance. And on top of it, it's formaldehyde free. And also, it's a carbon sink. Now, anything new, everybody's always come and said to me, is it cheaper? But again, it comes down to, as Tony said, the education. Cheaper in comparison to what? And they always go, is it cheaper than this? Yeah, but you can't compare it to this. For instance, MDF. MDF E2 grade. What they call here E1 grade is actually E2 grade. And you can't compare it because we are zero formaldehyde. MDF doesn't have structural strength. So I think it's a change in mindset in developers and in the designers, number one. Number two, I think the banks can help change this. The banks can help change this, and I know that there is legislation coming in, or if it hasn't already come in Europe, where you have to measure your carbon in your when you set out a BOQ, when you tender a project, you have to measure your carbon. And it depends on how much carbon you have, and what your carbon footprint is. Finally, I agree with Tony. The whole, and as you said, the whole life cycle of the building is also very important. If your building is going to be cheap to build, but it's going to be expensive to run, well, that's a very short-sighted thinking. And not only is it going to be expensive financially, it's also going to be expensive environmentally. I'll give you an example. I have a house in Norway, and I did some renovation work into the house. The house itself is 180 years old. It was moved from one location to another. We put in a underground heating. My energy bill went from 14,000 to 2,000 NOK, and that's incredible. So yes, it's expensive to put it in, but then to run the building is very cheap. And you only need to look at what's going on in Europe today with the crisis with the gas and the energy bills.
All right, Khaled, you have the last word.
Yeah, thank you for that.
How are you gonna solve the climate crisis?
I think there is a short-term approach and a long-term approach. Talking about culture and change of culture, this is the long-term approach, which we needed. We need to educate people. We need to educate stakeholders about the importance of going sustainable, of the importance of building on different ways than the ways we go for today. The short term is, I think it starts with regulators. They need to enforce it, as Tony said, but maybe for us here in the Middle East, enforcement is not the right approach. I think, as Mira said it, the incentive is the right way. This is how we like it, and this is how we will adapt and follow. Unfortunately, the budgets, the commercials, this is what drives construction in our region. Developers compete between them, so the last thing they want to hear about is sustainability or going sustainable. So yes, we need to show them a competitive product, a competitive solution, but it cannot be a one-off solution. It should be jointly done. For example, if we use your panels, which is lighter than the brick walls, forget about sustainability now. That means we need less structural elements, less structural loads. So the building itself has already become a better building, lighter, and if we adopt some more technologies in the same building, then the overall cost to build it will be much better and it will be much faster, and the low impact material has been used. So it's a collaboration. It cannot be a company or an entity or an authority on its own. It's everybody need to join forces to work together, but at the end it should be led by the authorities. And we follow.
Thank you so much. I think we all have a lot of work to do to collaborate, but I think there's real momentum, and I think it's exciting, and the technology's there. It's changing mindsets and making sure the policies are in place. So please join me in thanking this panel for this really great discussion, and go forth and buy sustainable buildings.